I want to talk a little bit about marketing and promotion. In Act 39 of 2016, it gave you the opportunity to issue grants to market and promote, and I believe that 1.8 million in grants were given last year. And you know, from my perspective, I'd like to learn a little bit more about how this program works, some successful projects. I represent Indiana County, and you know, a lot of times for our rural communities, a particular craft brewery or a distillery or something like that might be a destination, the only reason to get people into our rural community. So if you could talk a little bit more about that grant program, possibly expanding it, some successful projects, and perhaps your future vision for marketing and promoting places like craft breweries, distilleries, wineries, and things like that.
Yeah, I'll take it. At least at the beginning, until we have to swear in Liz. Swear in Liz. Yeah, I assume that you're talking about the wine grants and the beer grants for $1 million each that were legislatively put through that were financing for tourism grants, research grants, and so forth. To be honest with you, there's been an incredible amount of problems with them, and the reasoning behind that, not to throw anybody under the bus, but the way that the grants were set to do, we were basically the funding arm, not the arm that went out and solicited the grants, and we approved them because we are the funding part of it. And then the accountability part of it was all supposed to be handled by the Department of Agriculture. Well, this basically said, thanks but no thanks, after much wrangling. And now we've been dealing with 3 years of grants that have been delayed, there's no accountability behind it. And through Liz Brazel, our policy director, she and people in our general counsel's office have worked very diligently over the last, maybe 12 months to try and create a process that is a little bit more streamlined, it's fair, there's accountability there, and we have an opportunity that when somebody says they're going to do something and here's what it is, that is meeting the guidelines that were first placed on that. So if you were to ask me today, you know, are we happy with it? I would say no, but we're working towards that. And in cooperation with the wine board and the beer board as well. So the last thing we want to do is give out a grant that in turn does not, is not satisfied, so that they've taken that money, you know, that somebody else maybe could have used. I can tell you Penn State's done some of that. And they're in my district, okay? And I've said, well, hey, we're not going to pay them if they're not going to do it, and we're not going to give them that opportunity to keep moving that grant period from one period to another, and that's just a tiny bit of the issues. But we've taken basically over the entire grant process, even though that's not the way that is depicted in Act 39. Did that?
1.8 million.
With that?
This needs to be dug into a little bit deeper. If we're giving out money and there's no accountability, that's
exactly
what
we're doing. Okay,
right.
And I'd like to believe that what we did. I was asked this question last year in the Senate. I don't remember it in the House, and we were waiting for the reports to come back in that were specifically required in those particular grants, and I think that we're moving forward with this, but it's taken a long time, unfortunately, to determine who was going to do what, no matter who was responsible for it in the law itself. Okay? Because even though if somebody says, yeah, well, I'm supposed to do it,
right.
But if they're not doing it, who's that helping? It's not helping anybody. Not helping tourism. It's not helping anything. So we've taken it because there's really no other way of doing it. You know, if the Department of Agriculture has a problem with me saying it, they can come on over. We could talk about how we're going to move forward with it. All right, but we just said heck with it. We're just taking it over. So,
well, I think we're almost out of time, but I think it's pertinent that we get a clear process on this. I think there's ample opportunity, golden opportunity for some of these smaller businesses to grow in Pennsylvania. But if we're not going to do it right, then I mean that's kind of scary. So I think I think there's some follow-up needed here to make sure that there is accountability. I'd like to know what your specific process is going to be for awarding these grants, and then making sure that the grants are being used in the appropriate manner.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What Liz was saying is we have released 1.8 and $4 million through both the wine and the beer board, and I think the legislature's intent when they set up the wine board and the beer board was to do this and for it to work, and it was a great idea. And but it hasn't been working, and the biggest problem has been that the folks that have requested the grants and asked for them, the applications are faulty. And what we didn't want to happen, since we're responsible for the money, is to come before you guys and say, wait a second, you awarded this grant and they weren't following the rules, and not have accountability to you for the money. And so that's when we stepped in to try and put together a process, which we are still finalizing. But I would say in the last 6 months, we've made great progress, and will continue to do so, because we want to release the money. We want it to do exactly what you're asking it to do, to help places like Indiana County and the smaller areas and the smaller breweries and the smaller wineries. But we are making progress. But I want to be really clear that the biggest issue has been that the grant applications have been faulty. They have not followed the rules that I think you all intended when you said go do this. So we're trying to be accountable to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do think we need some follow-up here, though. Okay, thank you.